Welcome. My name is Jermaine McNeil, and welcome to Debt Negotiator Pro, a step-by-step course to teach you how to budget, locate, and save a lot of money when it comes to your debt. Be sure to like and subscribe, share this video, and follow for those of you who are following me on social media. I just found out something sort of kind of heartbreaking, and that is on Facebook Live. To go Facebook Live, it says that it's private, and the only people can actually see it is if I invite. So every single day I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I guess I'm just not having nobody watch. But come to find out, it's private unless I invite you, and then you actually come in to watch the live. But tomorrow I'm going to try and fix that. But moving right along, let's get through a few household items, right? There's a free letter bundle. That's to help all you guys who are on your credit journey, to help you with regards to that. You get a cease and desist letter, a goodwill letter, as well as a pay to delete letter, absolutely for free. If your score is in the 4s, the 5s, or 6s, chances are you do need credit repair. In the description, sign up for a free consultation with me to see if we're a great fit and if in fact it will actually work. Next Monday, so for those of you who follow me on YouTube, I will put it on my LinkedIn as well as my Facebook page. I got the privilege to interviewing an individual by the name of Tiffany Heritage from Heritage Tax. She is a professional in the tax field. In that video, which will be coming this following Monday, I get to highlight stuff as far as your business entities. There are a bunch of stuff, business entities, everything with regards to taxes and much, much more. So stay tuned for that. That'll be dropping this Monday. And then that following Monday, after this Monday, I'm going to be dropping some information with regards to my American Express business card. Some mistakes that I made. One of the things with me and my wife, when we decided to start, putting stuff on social media, we have Books, Dreams, and Financial Things, our podcast. We wanted to give you guys an insight and look at the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so with this American Express Platinum business card, I'm going to talk to you about the mistakes that I made. I want to give you guys that stuff. I don't want to just show you good stuff. I want to show you the mistakes so that you can avoid them as well. And so tune in for that. Now, let's get into it. Debt Negotiator Pro. The topic and the subject that I want to talk about today is chain of command. Finding and making sure you actually pay the correct company, right, when it comes to your debt. The reality is this. When you think, I'm from San Diego, right? And San Diego, obviously, is one of those military spots. And in the chain of command, if something was going wrong here in the military, who are you going to contact? You're going to contact your commanding officer, right? And there's a process that you have to go through. The only reason why I know this is because I have a cousin in the military. I've met a lot of people. And so there's a process. So you have to start with your commanding officer if there's an issue or something. And then, obviously, if things don't work in that aspect, you'll go up. But I say that to say this. You're not going to go from the command. You're not going to have an issue and go straight to the captain, right? That's against protocol. You're not supposed to do that. It's like an unwritten rule. Now, when it comes to your debt, it's a completely different thing. If you had a debt with Capital One and you're starting out and you're looking at possibly paying them or you're wanting to settle out that account, one of the things you're going to want to do is start with the original creditor. So in this case, you're going to start almost with the captain, the original person who actually had your debt. And then from there, you'll work your way down. In Debt Negotiator Pro, I actually teach you that. That's one of the modules that you actually learn with regards to that. Now, let me think of something. So I have my notes here and I'm trying to make sure, obviously I'm going through the notes and I have everything set up with regards to that. Now, when I was in debt collections, as a debt collector, I remember that a debt collection company, they have to send a demand letter, right, out to you as a consumer, letting you know that they actually have the account, the balance that's owed, and so forth with regards to that. There was a small percentage of people who would actually get the letter and actually write out a check for the balance and send it right back. As when I own my debt collection company, when we sent out demand letters, I loved when individuals did that. Now, I have to be honest with you as a consumer. If you get a demand letter from a debt collection company, don't just send the actual money right to them. Don't see, oh, you owe $3,000. You have the $3,000, you cut the check and send it right in. There's some reasons why I don't recommend that. Number one is because you lose out on the settlement, right? With regards to an account. So a lot of times, if you do obviously write out the check and send it back, which some of you guys do that, I don't recommend it because you'll lose out on a settlement. That $3,000 account, if you call them up before actually paying, you can save yourself some money off of that balance, number one. Number two is you may be sending the money to the wrong company, right? And what do I mean by the wrong company? You may have gotten the money, gotten a demand letter. It could be an older demand letter. It could be a brand new demand letter. And by not following the chain and calling, you send that check to them. What could happen is they can take it and cash it and then remit the money to the company that actually has rights, legal rights to your account. Or they can take that check, send it back to you, mail it back, or a lot of times they hold on to the check for a long time with regards to that. So by following the chain of command, starting with the original creditor, whoever that creditor is, you call them and then you work your way down. That'll save you a lot of time and stress when it comes to your debt in general. So it's very important to obviously understand that, right? And to do that when concerning that. Now, one of the things that you're going to have to look into with regards to that is make it when you're following the chain of command. You start out with the original creditor, right? You make a call up to them. A lot of times when you call them up, if they no longer have the account, whether it was transferred or sold, and when I say transferred, that's a contingent basis situation where they actually assigned it to another company to actually collect it on, or if it was sold, where they actually do sell the account pennies on the dollar to another agency. And I'm not going to get into whether you should pay them or not. It just depends on your situation and your circumstance, so you have to understand that. But once they tell you it was transferred, they're going to give you the name and the number of that company. If the original creditor gives you that name, then that means legally that company that you're going to call next actually has your account, right? And so you call them up, and they may currently have the account, they may not, right? And so in that case, when that happens, if they do have the account, then you know you're with the original, from the original creditor, you know you're paying the correct debt collection company at that time spent by going through the chain of command. Now, there are cases with older accounts. The older your debt becomes, when you're looking at the chain of command, then that's the more hands that it may have gone through. So you may contact that second company, and then they tell you that it was sold, or they sent it on a contingent basis to another company, and you can call them up, and all of a sudden that number is no longer good, right? And so in that case, I always say go work your way back up the chain of command with regards to paying, right? So understand something. The video that we talked about on yesterday was about budgeting, right? You want to make sure obviously you have your money in stance and in court with regards to what it is you're going to pay. Make sure you have about 70 to 80% of that balance, and then you're going to work on your negotiation. But before that time span goes, then you want to go through the chain of command. There are a lot, let me explain to you. There are a lot of fly-by-night companies and fraudulent companies, just like in any other business where accounts are being sold. So if I'm a debt buyer and I'm going to buy an account, right, whether I'm dealing with the broker or the original creditor, a lot of times before actually buying the account, what they'll do is they'll actually, if I'm going to buy it, I'm going to say, okay, yeah, let me take a look at the file. They'll omit some information, like the last name, and, maybe give a few on the social security name and the address, maybe blur out some of that stuff. They're going to give the balance, the original creditor, the account number. It'll be blurred out, but they'll probably give a few numbers with regards to that. So as a debt buyer, I want to make sure I'm buying an account that's legit, accounts that are legit, right? With regards to that. But there are companies out there, and I've seen it so many times, that will take that information that they get. They don't actually buy the account, and then they'll skip trace and try and find out who the person is from the city and state, maybe the last name or whatnot. And then at that point in time, start collecting on the debt. And so then they'll call me up talking about I owe a Capital One account. And the reality is, I would think, oh yeah, I knew I owed a Capital One account. They're calling me. And then you're looking at possibly paying them, and you end up paying the wrong company. And then before you know it, you pay them and you think that it's taken care of. And the next thing you know, 6 months to a year down the road, some other company's calling you to pay that same debt. And you're like, wait, I paid this company. You go look for the number to call them up. And then you find out that the company is no longer existent because they were a fly-by-night company. That's why it's very key that you go through the chain of command. Because if you go through Capital One's going to actually give you the company that they actually assigned the account to or sold the account to. In the chain of command, I'm using Capital One because that's just a known company. And with that being known, then you know that company you're calling next legally has your account. Anybody just calling you up and even sending you a demand letter. And a lot of times with these demand letters, what a demand letter is like a collection letter that you get in the mail, right? It'll show the company letterhead. It'll show you. It'll show the debt that's actually showing that you actually owe. A lot of times they'll blur out the original account number and maybe have a few numbers at the end. And then they'll have your address and they'll send it to you. You get that letter, and a lot of times, naturally, as a consumer, you're like, okay, I owe this debt. I want to pay it back. Obviously, if you've downloaded that Negotiator Pro, you know you're not going to go that route. But there are people who are going to go that route. And all of a sudden, you'll send a blind check, or you'll call them up, and they'll tell you, yeah, your Capital One account, and you trust them, and you pay. I cannot tell you, over my course of years of being in debt collections, 15 years of doing that, whether it was companies I work for or companies that I actually owned, getting someone on the phone and being like, they tell me, oh, I already paid that Capital One account. And I'm just like, okay, you paid it? I need proof. Show me proof. Number one, they don't have the proof. But I have it in my bank statement that it came out of from this company, and it may have been a year ago or whatever the circumstance is. And you know what ends up happening? For all I know, and as much as I wanted to believe when I was a debt collector and when I owned accounts, because I would call on accounts, as much as I wanted to believe the consumer that they actually paid, without the proper documentation and going through the chain of command, they end up having to pay it again. I've heard and seen, and the percentage, let me give you the percentage. Over the 15 years of doing that, at least 30% of consumers have said that. Now, the reality is, as a debt collector, when you call me and you tell me that you paid, we're going to use Capital One because that's what I've been talking about. When you call me and tell me, yeah, I already paid that account, my Capital One account, I'm going to want proof. Well, what's the proof? An actual bank statement is not going to work. Even if it's the same amount that the debt was with regards to the account. For all I know, you had another account that you had to pay. And that's why it's very key. You go through the chain of command. 30% of people that has come across. And even more, to even go more, I remember coming across consumers who said, I paid that account 3 times already because, they were threatening to sue or whatever the circumstances. Payday loans was a big thing with those type of accounts. I was talking about Capital One, but payday loans, a lot of times that's what was happening. Sometimes there's brokers out there who, and we're not even saying collection account, brokers out there, I'll tell you, where you legally, as a debt collection company, would buy the accounts. And you know what they would do? There's some shady ones out there, and they would sell your account to multiple companies, like 6 different companies. A matter of fact, Early on in when I owned my second debt collection company, a company that I worked for, and then eventually I bought them out. I had a lady who actually paid me on a debt, right? And I legally had a contract and so forth with regards to that debt, because debt is purchased and sold in bulk. So, it's not like I'm buying one account. You're buying, anywhere from 50 accounts all the way up to thousands, 10,000s, and millions of accounts, depending on the type of agency you have. And I collected the money from the lady. I gave her a paid in full letter. Everything was cool. And next thing you know, she called me back and told me some company called her about the same debt, right? And so I said, oh, okay, it's common in this business where that can sort of kind of happen. I gave her the paid in full letter. I said, give this to that company and they shouldn't call you. And she's like, okay. And then next thing you know, she called me back probably about 2 weeks after that and said, I've had 3 other agencies calling me about this same debt. And I'm like, are you sure it's the same account? She's like, yes, they gave the same original account and so forth. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh man, I knew that broker sold me bad accounts. And then come to find out through the industry, that broker had access to a bunch of accounts. He sold them to a bunch of debt collection companies. And so then that's the issue with regards to that. And so in that case, if you did pay, and to be honest with you, just to give you the story, I ended up getting sued on that account. And it dealt with the fact, not the fact that I collected the money, I did everything right. I just didn't know that in the state of California, you had to have a license. And I mean, not in the state of California. It was in this. She resided in Arizona, because at the time in the state of California you didn't. Now, if you have a debt collection company, you do. But at that time, California didn't have to have a collector's license. But in Arizona, you had to actually have a license, and I didn't have one. And so even though I was the one who actually got the money from the lady, I was nice to her, gave her a settlement. I ended up being sued. But that's why it's so important. Just like any business, I know a lot of times you're thinking, well, it's my debt. I should be able to deal with a legit company and whatever the circumstances. Debt collectors and so forth as a whole will be desperate for money, for lack of better words. And they're trying to collect, right? Because they've paid whatever the percentage. A lot of times it's pennies on the dollar for the debt, but the portfolio may not be performing. So I may have bought some accounts, 200 accounts. I may have spent maybe $5,000 for it. The debt of those accounts may have been, $100,000 worth of debt. And then you start calling and, you come across a bunch of people who just aren't paying. And that's the situation with regards to that. And so a lot of them are desperate. A lot of them, some collection companies are legit collection of companies, but the broker was bad. Or the debt collection company is a fly-by-night company, and you may pay them, and the next thing you know, you go to get the proof that you paid, and you can't find them. And so then you end up having to pay twice. Those are the things that I look for with Debt Negotiator Pro, right? I understand that side, and so I'm going to teach you in those 5 videos how to avoid things like that. Your debt consolidation company and your debt settlement company, a lot of times they don't have they've never worked on the debt collection side. So in their mind, they're almost like you as a consumer when you hire them. Typically, they're going to charge you a monthly fee with regards to it, or they're going to charge you a percentage of the debt. That's something that I do. I charge you 20% of your debt. If you owe a $10,000 debt, you have me negotiate the debt for you. I'm going to charge you $2,000 to do that. I'm going to get you the best deal, and I'm going to do that. Or you can sign up for Debt Negotiator Pro and actually pay a fraction of that amount. Click the link. You can see the price and so forth with regards to that. And you get the step-by-step methods that I actually did with regards to settling people's debt accounts out. Same thing that those debt consolidation companies do and debt negotiation companies do. The only difference is I'm going to teach you a lot more than they could ever teach you, because a lot of them don't come from that background, and then you could do it on your own. Now, if you want to hire me, no biggie. Hit the link, sign up for a consultation, we can talk, and then I can do it for you if you don't have the time. But for those of you who want to learn this, save yourself a lot of money, and avoid a lot of those traps, sign up for Debt Negotiator Pro down below. that's pretty much all that I have with regards to that and that segment, right? You got to go through the chain of command. And I call it the chain of command because it's similar to the military. You're going through. You start out the original creditor and you work your way down. By calling these people, and another thing you can ask is for a sales contract, a copy of a sales contract showing that this account, your specific account, was included, then you know that you're paying the correct person. Versus a lot of these debt consolidation companies, which I'm not a big fan of it. If you're gonna do one or the other, I recommend a debt settlement company, just because debt consolidation, a lot of times what ends up happening is they'll say, yeah, we'll make sure no more calls, we'll get rid of all the headaches that you have with regards to the debt collectors calling you. Because eventually, if they do call you, you give them this number, but you're paying them a monthly fee. And you know what they do? Let's say you're paying them $300 a month. Of that $300, they're going to take their fee out of that money, right? So of the $300, typically they may take 50 to $100 from that. And then they'll take your $200 and spread it across all of your accounts, right? And I know this because I've dealt with it. I used to be on the other line, and I remember getting payments from these type of accounts with debt consolidation companies. And when they take your money, right, they're going to take your money. That $300 now is deducted to $200. And let's say you have 4 accounts. They take that $200 and they're going to break it up into $50 each one of those accounts, and then they'll pay $50 towards that account. And depending on your situation, you're going to pay $300. They're going to take their fee, and then they're going to just distribute the rest to all the other companies. And typically it's a small amount. I've gotten as low as $7 up to, at sometimes I would get, like $100. But still, $100 on a $3,000 debt. Yes, you as a consumer, you don't have to deal with them calling you and harassing you about the debt. But let's face it, a lot of people got into debt because they weren't managing their money right. And what ends up happening is, if you default with those debt consolidation companies, which they never tell you, they're only going to tell you the positive part of the non-being harassed and having peace of mind, if you call it peace of mind. But what ends up happening is, once you default, not only, depending on the contract that you sign with that debt consolidation company, you end up owing them on top of the debt that you were paying all those other debt. So why not go with a debt settlement company, right? And within that range, then they're just charging you an upfront fee. Obviously, you still, with Debt Negotiator Pro, when you do it on your own, you're still going to have to come up with the lump sum to actually pay, but you're going to be charged on the low end, maybe a 10% fee. So if you owe 10 grand, they're going to charge you $1,000. But if you do it on your own, take the time and do it on your own and get the step-by-step method of Debt Negotiator Pro, it's $197, only $197, and you pay that one time. You get access to all the 5 modules. On top of, you join our Facebook group in case you had any questions or anything that may have not been handled in that course. And I'm part of that Facebook group. So if you had any questions, if you've watched any of my YouTube videos, I say, if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section. I answer every question. So for this Debt Negotiator Pro within the Facebook group, you will get me answering those questions, as well as other people in there. So as you're going through the Debt Negotiator Pro course, you're going to get help from me and others within that community to answer any questions and so forth. So it's not like you just get this course, and I pay for a bunch of courses where you get the course, right? And then you watch the video and now you want more help, and there is no more help with regards to it. You got to contact, customer support or whatever the circumstance is. You get direct access to me, and any question that's going on, we help you out with regards to that. And then there's bonuses. Everybody who purchases Debt Negotiator Pro, you will get my free ebook with regards to credit repair, as well as the business ebook and building business credit. And that's a whole nother world, right? And a lot of that comes with that. But today, we're talking about Debt Negotiator Pro. Hit the link down below. Get it. 5 videos explaining to you the debt negotiating side. We call it Debt Negotiator Pro because if you follow those steps and you do the things that they're saying in that video, you will be a Debt Negotiator Pro. And I guarantee you, you will have friends and family, if you tell them the money that you saved and so forth, coming to you trying to get you to settle out their debt. And that can morph into a business if that's something that you want to do, a very lucrative business. But nevertheless, that is what it is. Now, if you have any questions about Debt Negotiator Pro or any questions about debt or credit, put it down in the comment section. Whether you're watching the replay of this or you're watching it live, put those questions down in the comment section. I promise I'll answer those questions. And like I always state, and I believe this and I know it, I don't care. Wherever you're at in your credit journey, all credit can be repaired. But remember, credit repair is just not another bill. It's a down payment on your future. I know that because it has changed my life. You guys be great.